Hello friends, today I'm going to be talking about journaling when you have ADHD, and for me specifically, I'm also an artist. Journaling is a bit of a sensitive topic for people with ADHD a lot of the time because, you've definitely heard people be like, oh, just get a journal, it'll fix all your problems. Yeah, well, it doesn't help very much if you have no idea how to actually journal. So recently, in the past year actually, I have discovered a journaling method that actually works for me, which is awesome, and today I'm going to be talking about it. So first I'm going to tell you about a lot of the things that I've tried that haven't worked. The first one that I tried was the very traditional sense of the journal, where you have your journal and you write Dear Diary, and then you tell it all about the contents of your day. I did that for a while when I was younger, but eventually it fell off after a month or two, which is a surprisingly long length of time for someone with ADHD. I also went through using that journaling method when I was going through a hard time in my life and didn't have very many friends, so I would cope with my feelings a lot of the time by just venting to a person, and if I didn't have a person to vent to, I ended up turning to a journal, and it was very inconsistent, and it ended up being a space where I would vent whenever I wasn't feeling very well, which was still a good way for me to deal with that. But I've always wanted to have a journal I could use daily. Now, I've also tried planners, and that's not quite in the same vein as journaling, but planners absolutely don't work. I have had plenty that just sit in a box now and have, lasted no more than a week. Shocking if it did even last a week. Another thing I've tried that seems to work for a lot of ADHD people is a bullet journal. But for me, the structure, I like structure. Structure is good, but having to implement that structure on my own is difficult, and having to number all the pages and make a table of contents, it's just too many steps for me. Too many steps, a little too organized for my brain to work with, and having to set it all up it's fun to set up, but when I just want to make an entry and I'm supposed to enter it into a certain spot in my journal or whatever, I'm also worried about, I want this to be in the right spot, and what if I can't rearrange it? Don't like that. So the bullet journal never ever worked for me. I've tried it several times, does not work. The last thing I've tried is having specific journals for specific things, where I would try to have a daily journal and a spot where I would write down lyrics for music, and a spot where I would vent. Also didn't work. It's none of this is helpful for me. Did not work. What actually worked is one day I came across a commonplace journal, and what that was, and for reference, this is technically not a commonplace journal. But so a commonplace journal / commonplace book, a lot of the time you'll take information or quotes and put it into a journal. However, the method that was used is very useful for me, where you just put stuff in the journal. You just throw stuff in there. I use this journal that I have. Here it is. Also gave it lots of stickers. But I use this journal for anything and everything, and that's how it works very well for me. So there's no limits, there's no constraints. I just use it however I want. A lot of the time I'll put a label on the page just so I kind of know what it is when I when I just flip through it. But other than that, I just throw stuff in there. So I will draw in it if I'm bored and I don't want to put it in my sketchbook, or I don't have a sketchbook on me. I will do morning pages / a brain dump if I'm feeling it. If I feel dumping my thoughts somewhere, I can just start writing in the journal. I also just put things that I collect, kind of this is also a little mishmash of junk journaling, where I'm I have this thing that I like and I want to keep, I don't have a spot for it, stick it in the journal. I've got wristbands from events. I have business cards from vendors that I've seen. I have receipts. Got, what else is in there? I've got funny little flyers that I've been given. Any random little piece of junk that I end up given, I can just throw it in there for fun. And it feels like a little archive of my life at the time, which is something I would like to go flip through later, which is sweet. I also like to try to use this when I'm bored. It is a good alternative to like doom scrolling, especially if like you just have an awkward amount of time, and I really try hard to stay off my phone. It's still a work in progress, but it is helpful to have a journal where I can use my boredom. I can write my thoughts down, especially while I was in class. This was really helpful. When I would get bored in class, I could just start writing instead of like pulling out my phone and being clearly distracted. I could write my thoughts down. I could write down notes from the class, which is also what I would use it for. I would use this as a class notebook. I only had like art classes, so it was easier for me to have like this one conglomerate notebook as like my journal. But this would not work very well for like a regular class where you need to find your content. But it would work pretty well for me because like my art is kind of intertwined with my brain, and this is like my brain on paper is kind of how I view this book. It's just like my brain in a book. Whatever I'm thinking, whatever I'm feeling, whatever happens to me goes in my little book brain. I will use it to write down reminders because you're more likely to remember something if you write it down. So I'll just write down a reminder, and sometimes at the end of the day, did I want to remember something? Oh yeah, I can flip through the journal, or if I like think of that and then I just remember the thing, that's also great. I have also used this as scratch paper, which is really nice because I've always got some paper on hand as long as I remember to bring it with me. But there was this one time my dad and I were planning this trip we were going on together, and we were just like at a restaurant and we didn't have any scratch paper, and I was like, oh, let's just use my journal. And he was like, are you sure? Do you want to put this in your journal? I'm like, of course. I just throw stuff in here. Let's write down our plan and make it all cohesive. So it's nice to have scratch paper around and just use it. Throw whatever you want in this everything book that is also your brain, kind of, sort of. I just touched on this, but I also use it for planning. Like if I'm having a hard time, I'm trying to plan what I want to do, and I'm trying to fit it all together in my head. It's easier if I just use the journal, start writing it down and like figuring it out and whatnot. I don't have to worry about how pretty it looks. I just write everything down, and then on another page I can sort it and make it all better. I can also write down ideas in here. So like if I get an idea for an art project or something that I want to try later, or like literally anything, like, oh, I think it would be cool to try making XYZ for lunch. I think it would be cool to do this as an art project. I think it would be, maybe I should try doing this as like a daily habit. Just start writing down ideas. Another really fun thing that I like to do, sometimes it's not very consistent, I will use like an app that will track your music. For like the past month. You could do like the past week, you could do past 3 months, past 6 months, whatever. But I'll just write down like my top 10 songs I've listened to for the month. And it's just fun to like look through. If I'm flipping through old journals, I can say, oh, that's what I was listening to that month. That's kind of cool. Sometimes I'll also include like top artists or top albums, but it's a really fun little archive of my life, and I like including that in there. And as an archive of my life, I just kind of, it functions well as that because I really just throw down whatever is happening in my life. And I imagine in like a couple years in the future, it will be fun to look back, or many, many years in the future. I have 2 of these that I've finished. I've had a harder time doing it the past year or so, but I'm getting back into it and we're going good. So hopefully it sticks, but this is the most consistent journaling method I've found so far. And even though I haven't been like super consistent super recently, I still do use it from time to time, which is a lot more than any other journal I've had. So these are the 2 other journals that I've finished, and as you can see, especially this one has gotten pretty thick because I just keep lots of stuff in here. Let me go through and find some stuff. Oh, yep, I threw $2 bills in here because I got them for my 16th birthday, which was an eternity ago, it feels like. But I've never known what to do with them. And then I was like, perfect, we throw it in the journal. I got some spray paint, and I was like, you know what? It would be really fun to just spray this in my journal. So I spray painted the inside of my journal. I also have this page, don't mind me holding it over here for the other side is a little more private, but this is confetti from a concert I went to when I was like 15, and I just had it in a jar, and I was like, you know what, it would be really fun to just glue it in my journal. Also, another fun thing, I went to like an Art in the Park event we have here, and I got some really fun stickers and snippets, and I just made a cute little page in here. I threw stickers on this page and a drawing on the other one because I was bored and felt like it. And here are like little handouts that I got from when I went to FanX last year, and I just glued them in here for fun because I thought they'd be fun to go in my journal. There's something else that I brought from FanX this year. We just got back, but I got handed this flyer about like, what is this? I don't know, like Star Trek fan club kind of deal. I don't know a whole lot about it. I just thought it was cool and stuck it in there. And these are just my notes for the video that I'm recording right now. So you really just like throw anything in here, make it thick, it gives it character. Just do stuff. Why not? Have a great time with it. There's no limits, there's no boundaries, which is the absolute best thing. And another important thing is trying to take it with you just so that you have like a journal that you can use. You could also, what you could do instead is have like a tiny little notebook or like a little notepad that you can take with you, and you could rip off the pages and glue them in your journal later, or keep it as a separate journal, kind of sorta as like the same deal. But I think that having something with you to try to keep you from scrolling on your phone if you want, or if you spontaneously come up with ideas and want to write them down. I prefer writing it down on paper than in my phone because my phone is a disaster. The notes section on my phone is of random insanity, and then I look back later and it made no sense because I typed it fast. It was like, I don't need context for this. Yes, you did. But if you write it down, you're more likely to remember the context, so that helps me a lot. But yeah, this is the only journaling system that's worked for me, even if it's not the most consistent. It's worked pretty well for me in the past few years, and I hope to keep using it and build up like a giant archive of journals. So I hope you can use it and then it helps you too. And I will see you guys later. Bye.